till I die, Spurs die hard. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Spurs die hard. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die, Spurs die hard. Tottenham till I die.
Hello and welcome to the regular Friday edition of Spurs Die Hard, Tottenham Till I Die. Tonight we have a few things to discuss. The good win of Frankfurt, a progression in the Champions League. There is some transfer, well, not that much transfer news. There's also a preview of Man City, and anything else that you raise or people ask if they ask questions in the chat as well. Obviously, we'll take your questions as well. So I don't do long-winded intros. So without further ado, we say hello to Steve, a regular guest on the show, who's at Stateside Footy. Who I've got here somewhere. Hang about.
It's there.
It's there. And it's in the comments as well. So those of you watching us now or those of you later and watching us on playback, get over to Stateside Footy. With that, done my duty to the guest. How are you, Steve?
I'm well, man. It's not a bad Friday afternoon, I gotta say. The good news is that we're coming off a rather decent victory in the Champions League where our form actually looked pretty goddamn good. And I'm kind of hoping there's going to be some carryover this weekend against Man City. Outside of that, the temperature kind of peaked a little bit over 40 degrees, and that's the first time in a few weeks where we had some sun out today. So it's a great day.
Bit of the 8 degrees. I know you had problems with your heat and you had to change the units and that. Similar thing happened to me.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Leak under the washing machine, ordinary washing machine, put it in. The leak wasn't the washing machine, it was the pipe behind it. So anyway, the washing machine was sold and it's been replaced. So with a new one. So anyway, these things always seem to happen winter time though, don't they? If your boiler's going to blow up, it's going to go in the winter. Right. Anyway, enough of that waffle. Right. So we got a comment here. Is this? Oh, hi, Stephen Agent. If you're there, Alan's coming on, Roger. He'll be on. He's got family duties to do. I think pick the kids up from school or something like that. So yeah, so he'll be on him. Big up, Roger, regular friend of the show. Yeah. And Steve is saying hi to you as well. Yeah, let's go back to the banners. Where am I? Frankfurt 0, Spurs 2. I know you didn't see the show, Steve, but the game rather. But we'll talk about what's happening next and all that. I mean, like Frankfurt, it was a good performance for Spurs. It was sort of a 90-minute performance, first one we've seen, but it wasn't like a scintillating performance. We could have won by more goals. I mean, like Frankfurt only had 2 chances. One, they skimmed the top of a bar, and 2, one of them players found himself in the middle of our penalty area. And he scuffed his shot, but that looked well offside to me anyway. But that was the only threat they posed. We could have done more. I mean, shouts out. I mean, I thought our 2 best players. And it was one of those games when you could have named all the team virtually, but our 2 best players were definitely Romero and Moani. I think Moani got it on the Spurs site simply because he's a sexier player, and. Yeah, but Danso, he was good as well. I mean, like Paulina. I mean, there was so many good performances on that field. So Gray, I thought, was very, very good in midfield, and he's sort of finding his niche there. What have you seen of Gray in midfield, Steve? Are you a fan or not?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've been a Archie Gray fan since he came over. At first, what I appreciated about it was his versatility, his ability to play more than one position, and being able to fill in. That was one of the things that jumped out at me the first time that I saw him in a Tottenham shirt. But one of the things that I've absolutely appreciated about him this season is his consistency. The dude seems to have ice water in his veins, where he never seems to get too high or get too low, and he just seems to actually just put together consistent performances. He's actually one of the rare players on this roster that is capable of doing it. And that seems kind of rare considering he's only 19, 20 years old. And you would think that the Premier League eventually would get to him. But man, credit to him, right? A lot of credit to him. He seems to be one of those young players that seems to be wise, playing well above his years of where he's at. So from that standpoint, I'm not surprised that Archie Gray put together another brilliant performance.
Yeah, I mean, I like his ball progression. He's more accurate pass than Bergvall. Some fans, and I like Bergvall, don't get me wrong, right? I like Bergvall, and he's got a very good engine on him. And he's sort of, apart from being good, he always seems to be in a position to receive the ball. And also, he goes into positions. You find him on the right wing against Bodo, putting the ball across for a goal and things like that. And he scored one, didn't he? And I watched him at Leeds. I really like this kid. And I know with the fan base, it's mixed. I know if Danny was on, he's not keen. He may have changed. I don't know. But I know he's not keen. The more I see Gray, the more I like him. So yeah. And
one of the things that I like as well too, and considering a lot of people, you look at him as a defensive mid, and yet in these European games he seems to get forward. And one of the things that I like about him, you brought up his positioning, and it's funny as a late arrival in the box, he always seems to go unaccounted for as well too. He always seems to find himself in very good positions, not only progressing the ball from a midfield standpoint, but also late arriving in the box as well too. His positioning always seems to be spot on, whether that's in a position to potentially take a shot or be a distributor as well too. That's one of the sneaky good qualities that he actually possesses.
And his positioning from when we get a set play, like a free kick or a corner as well, and in a way he goes a bit unnoticed. And I just find him to be a very intelligent footballer. He's got a very, very high football IQ. Let's talk about another couple that have impressed. Let's talk about Odegaard, because he's starting to hit his straps a bit recently.
Yeah.
And they've raved about him at the club and at the training ground, like saying he beats players for fun, blah, blah, blah. And we're all thinking, well, we ain't really seen it in games. But the last few appearances, I mean, he scored against Villa when we lost. He's a finisher. I mean, I've watched him and Tell play for the French under-21s, and they look absolutely outstanding, right? But they have really good performances. But he's starting to shine now, isn't he? He's still developing, but he's starting to shine. Yeah.
And you wonder whether or not he's found a home on that right-hand side. And the question is if the development progresses, is that somebody that can potentially challenge a guy like Mohamed Kudus on the right-hand side? That's kind of the intrigue because there's no doubt he's got the pace. And it seems like over the last couple of weeks prior to the injury of Pedro Porro, there was a couple game stretch there where it felt like those two seemed to be in sync, where whether you're talking touch passes, give and goes, he seemed to figure out how to break free and be a nuisance down that right-hand side. And one of the other things that I actually was actually quite impressed, considering that, he's a left-footed player, his weak foot his weak foot crosses have actually been very good, whether that's, maybe not necessarily through the air per se, would you consider, I guess you can say, a standard cross, but, these low crosses that come in that are on the ground, they come in with pace and they always actually seem to be 100% on the money. And I'm thinking about, it was a matter of fact, it was that game against Borussia Dortmund, where he got free down that right-hand side. He put one in, and he actually was pinpoint right on Solanke's back foot. And Solanke had to adjust, and he almost tripped, but the ball went in. And it kind of goes to show you that, when it comes to these low crosses, You wonder whether or not he actually has the ability, I guess you could say, with a traditional cross, or if it makes sense for him to go low. But regardless, it turns out he's actually accurate on his weak foot down that right hand side. And so from that standpoint, that's actually kind of an asset, considering that, this team does, at least in the Premier League, struggles to get balls in the box. And so you wonder if that actually can develop into an asset. And if that can, is that something that actually gives him a little bit more of an edge, say, over a guy like Mohamed Kudus?
He's shown a little bit more aggression, because I was agreeing with Ali Gold like a month or so ago when he was going on about, has he got the physicality for the Premier League?
I think he does.
A tremendously fit kid. But I mean, and I think he means more when you get a one-to-one coming together. He's the one that will get bounced off the shoulder of another player. Showing a little bit more bite there. I want to see more of it, right? But he's showing a bit more bite. But they say, I mean, this is from the training ground for the 30 of you are watching us on various platforms. Thanks for tuning in. They say he's the most skillful player at the club, and Maddison's the second most skillful, right? So
let me ask you this.
Actually, yeah.
Can I actually ask you this question real quick? Because this is something that I've noticed. I actually think he's shown more on the right-hand side than he has on the left-hand side. And I actually thought he was starting to develop nicely on that left-hand side. But since he's made the switch over, I don't know if you agree with this, but he looks a little bit better for this team on the right versus the left.
Yeah, it's early days. I mean, on that, because, when Spence was playing on the left, everybody's saying, oh, he does a good job on the left, he should play on the left. But to me, if you're right-footed, and in defenders especially, if you're right-footed, I want you on the right-hand side. And if you're left-footed, I want you on the left. Defenders, we all know that wingers are inverted in a lot of teams to cut in, right? So Odegaard cuts in on the right, but he was actually, like you're saying, he was going wide and putting them telling crosses in, low or high, he was putting them in. So, yeah, I think there's a case for him being like sort of, they don't say ambidextrous for feet. There's another word, pedidextrous or something like that. But I think he can play on both sides, to be honest, and in the 10, So he's another option there. Let's talk about the kid. Go on, carry on.
I don't know about that. I mean, I would think that it at full strength, it's nice being able to have a winger that can do it at a high level on both sides. And I would probably assume, I think that you're right. I think Spurs GCTV just hit right there. It's called bipedal. But the notion that, he's going to play in a 10, I guess you're correct by that, because we had seen it. I think we saw it once, maybe twice this season, just due to injury, where he actually had to play in that role. But even in the Premier League, he didn't necessarily look all that convincing in that position as he is, whether on the left or the right. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He can play across the midfield three. But I would probably assume that you probably want him on either side of the wing instead of that 10 position.
Yeah, I'm just saying hi to a few in the chat.
Yeah.
So while I'm saying hi to them, he stepped up a bit more and been more noticeable. Danso.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I've said I like the player. So before I receive pelters, I mean, I've said, but for what I've seen of Vuskovic at 18, he's better than Danso in every metric, whatsoever.
Yeah,
and I think he's a sure fit. I know we've had all these rumours because it's Spurs. Oh, VDV's going. No, he ain't. Or Madrid want to pay 8. But none of this is happening. I mean, Ronaldo's a captain. He signed virtually a career-ending contract at Spurs. VDV's still got, a few years to go. We need to get him signed up again. But once you hold on to these players, you shouldn't have any fears of it when you're watching on various platform fans, because basically Real Madrid need to stiffen their defence. They've got so many injuries. Well, they can't wait 1 or 2 seasons. They've got to do it now. So when we hold on to our players, well, goodbye, go and get someone else. Right? You know what I mean? So that's not happening. The club.
Yeah, and I would actually be upset, and I think a lot of Spurs fans would be upset as well too if we go ahead and sell one of our best defenders. As a matter of fact, I actually think VDV is means more to this team, because considering from a left-sided center half, he's probably one of the best in the world now. I think that development has taken to a point where if you're wanted by a team like Real Madrid, it just lets you know where some of the best clubs in the world actually evaluate them at, which means, in some instances, especially in the Premier League, he's even more valuable than his Dutch counterpart, Virgil van Dijk, at this stage. And so from that standpoint, even if they come in and they offer you 120 million euros, or they decide to pay you in pounds or American dollars, it's still a hard no. Because if this team does have the ambition, you don't break up your center back pairing right now. And it's like, I understand.
And also, I don't think them clubs out there. I mean, PSG could do it; they've got the money. If the likes of Liverpool, really, you paid 98 million for Van Dijk. If you're coming in for VDV, we're talking 125, 150 million.
Correct.
But
that's the thing. It's like, if you have the ambition that ENIC 2.0 has, which is to build around some of these players. Okay, great. The last thing you want to do is put yourself in a position where you sell away one of your center backs that literally is one of the best in the world at that position. And it's irregardless of the fact that Kevin Danso is good. Like, Kevin Danso, especially when they drop into that back three. And I understand, like, that match in Burnley where that that set piece right before the end of the first half, where it looked like both Danso and Romero kind of switched off right there for a second. Mm-hmm. But Danso has actually proved that he can actually play at this level, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be that replacement if you actually get rid of one of those two players. It's like, it doesn't work that way. And I do agree with you about Vuskovic, where he is the next coming at that right center half position, but that's not now. You know what I mean? And the ambition of this club has to be a little bit more than, well, we have £125 million offer, so we can't just not take it. It's like, it just doesn't work that way. And you have to, you get what I'm saying.
And we're not short of centre backs. You've got Byfield coming in as an excellent prospect. You've got Dorotton's back in the under-21s after winning the Scottish Cup with Aberdeen. And Ashley Phillips is smashing it at Stoke. And I knew it, all this linking us with centre backs. All right, we know we'll come on to the left back because there's still a little bit of noise about the left back position. We'll come about that later. Yeah, we're just going through the team. Did you watch the game, Alan? Good evening.
I did. It was we won. I'm very happy about that. We scored
2 wins on a spin.
That's I can't take away from that. I'm very happy about that, first and foremost. I think the style of play was still a little boring and negative. I think that what's it called? The Frankfurt was they were bad. They weren't that good. So I didn't think that they had. I never felt like they were really scoring. I think the first time Vicario even had to touch the ball was just to kind of like kick it back to someone. I mean, he had like nothing to do for most of the game.
Yeah, they had 2 chances. They skimmed the ball, and then you had that guy in the middle of our penalty area who scuffed a shot. But he looked yards offside. If that had been given, I reckon that would have gone to VAR. Anyway.
Yeah, but for the most part, we had a ton of the ball, and we just the final third. Again, I think this is where Dominic Solanke comes in, because he scored a poacher's goal, right? He intercepted it, and it was a great goal. Whereas I think Kolomowani, it kind of looked like it.
That was over.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that went in, but it went in. But we just don't look that interesting up front. I mean, I don't think any team fears our front line. I think they're nervous of Romero because he is very aggressive and he's known to be very dominant in the air. So players tend to be cautious around him because they know if they're not careful, he's going to sweep under their legs and take them down. Yeah. I think Kevin Danso did a good job standing in for VDV. No one has in the back line really has the same speed, although I think Destiny Udogi is supposed to be super fast. I just
He
haven't
is.
seen that out of him. He's not as
Spence is
fast when he's
second
with the
fastest.
ball. What's that?
Spence is the second fastest. after
Spence is the
Lee.
second fastest. But even with Jed Spence, we only ever get to see that every once in a while. Mick, it's great that he is super fast. He just never really uses it. Mickey Van de Ven, I think, tries to take the opportunity, and maybe it's because he is a larger person that he can physically dominate whoever's in front of him and then make runs, or maybe Jed Spence needs to be a little more tricky on the ball because he is a little more slight. And maybe that's an area of growth for Jed Spence, is to build up a little bit, maybe to bulk up a little more, maybe even at the sacrifice of just a hair of speed, because he's not doing speed. He's not really. He's not running at the ball as fast as everybody else, I don't think. And maybe that's just a little bit of laziness.
Yeah, I take issue with Frank over like, oh, not keen on players shooting outside the box. Well, Odobert at the post, right? Which looked like it was going in, Alan, right? That looked
It did look like it was going in. I thought Odobert had a goal. Odobert thought he had a goal.
Yeah, and you know,
Except for the post.
If you watch,
Except for the post, that's right.
if you watch,
Post didn't want to get hit either.
if you watch, if you watch Xavi's videos before he comes to us, all his goals are from outside the box when he cuts in and blasts one in. You might get the odd one inside the box, you know. And
the shot that he had when he put in was beautiful.
Yeah,
even though it came back.
I actually thought, I think I wasn't on Savage show, I wasn't watching it, but apparently Savage said he agreed that goal should have been allowed. And I was thinking at the time, all right, I get why it wasn't given by the tug on the shoulder, right? And the player went down so easy, didn't he?
So easily.
But my thought on that was, and being as I am a biased Spurs fan, right? My thought was, if you tug the player, if you're defending a corner and Vidi Villarreal tugs a player like that and he goes down, you're not getting a penalty for that. That happens all the time in the box.
Yeah, for us, exactly.
So I thought, I can see why it wasn't given, but I could see why it would be given. You know, and like this was one of them. But this is European football. In the Premier League, I think the goal might have stood.
Yeah. Well, I think we tend to be because it was a group of Spanish refs, and I think maybe in the league where they generally would be refs, the contact is not as forceful as it is in the Premier League. I know, like in the Bundesliga, they don't hit. If you watch their games, it's a lot of passing. They don't do a ton of physical stuff, which is why I think people like Xavi Simons, who comes in and gets kind of bullied off the ball, a bunch in the beginning, because I don't think he's ready for the physicality that the Premier League has compared to other leagues.
Going to come to him in a minute, Steve. I mean,
well,
I see a lot of in Premier League games. You see a lot of challenges in the box when corners and set pieces are having. It seems to me that you can foul a player above the waist and nothing's given. And yet, if that same incident happened on the halfway line, you get the free kick.
Right. And that, make that make sense. Right. So, I think the reason why is because they're expecting a certain amount of physicality when it comes to that, when it comes to positioning inside the box on a set piece. Players are trying to, are essentially trying to get the inside shoulder when it comes to that. They're trying to be within 3 feet of the goalkeeper. They're either trying to be at the goalkeeper's back shoulder, their front shoulder. So there's going to be a lot of pushing and shoving, which is why you see referees stopping before the arm goes up before the kick, because they're trying to curb down a little bit on it. But that being said, there's always going to be a certain amount of contact that refs are going to let go versus open play. Open play, you're not going to see a lot of that. You're not going to see a lot of that contact going unnoticed. As a matter of fact, when you see a player try to essentially hip check or push in the side, push in the back, generally speaking, you automatically are going to get a whistle, and in some cases, you're going to get a yellow card as well too. Versus in the box where me personally, I think refs are looking at it, just expecting there's going to be a minimal amount of contact, and so you're going to have to wade through it to find out whether or not there's an obvious foul versus you're going to be able to let that one go.
Yeah.
Alan, let's go back to what you just nearly alluded to before I cover that point, which was Moani. What's your take on him? How's he doing?
Well, I just don't think that we got what we were expecting. in when we loaned him. I think we were expecting a player that did very well, I think, at Frankfurt, and PSG, they paid a ton of money for him. They hate him at PSG, but it seems like he doesn't play with his heart in it. He just kind of, you can see when a player is inspired when they're playing. You can tell by the way they're running, the way they're committing to kicking the ball, going into the, if they're going to slide in, they're committing completely. Mawani just doesn't do that as much. It reminds me of when everybody started thinking that Jed Spence might be a little lazy. Remember, there was a period of time everyone's like, well, what's going on? Because he was so good. And then suddenly he was like, is he holding back a little? And I think with Mawani, it's the same thing. And with Mawani, it could be strategic because he wants to go back to Juventus, apparently.
Yeah, I was going to come to that with you. I was going to say, do you think he's just stepped up? He showed a lot more enthusiasm earlier on. Now we've approached the January transfer window. Like you said, maybe just coincidental, but he does seem to have edged it. He was happy with his goal, but when he come off and Frank hugged him, I don't know. He was happy with his goal, but he's still he doesn't want to be here. Well, in that case, we don't want you. You know what I mean?
When we loaned him, I don't think he had anywhere else to go. And I think he came to us because we were the only callers. And I think there's a certain amount of pride lost in that. I think that but he was willing to do it, because I think he'd rather play than just sit on the bench for PSG or be an outcast for PSG. So he came to us, we gave him game time, and he's kind of rewarded us with wanting to jump ship at the very first opportunity. Where, I don't know what's going on in the back with him and everybody else if he doesn't have a good relationship with people. It seems like the French connection got along pretty well with him and Audebert, and you got Xavi Simons and Matisse Tell. It seemed like he had some camaraderie with those guys. But now the moment Juventus wants to get him, and I don't know if it's because he wanted to go last summer and something happened.
I think because Vlahovic is on a free in the summer. He could sign now for teams. And I think Juventus don't want to pay his wages, right? So I think they want him back, or they want to get someone else in, whether it's Xerxes or someone else like that. But Steve, on Mawani anyway, I mean, we're not going to let him go back. We're not breaking the loan. We've got no one else to play there apart from Scarlett and Tell, right? And
Scarlett just went out.
He's gone out on loan. Good luck to him. I watched him as a 17-year-old. I think he's going to have a fantastic career with someone else. He will score goals. But Mawani now, if he wants to make that French World Cup squad, he's got to start stepping it up, Steve.
Yes, but I will say that, this has been kind of a crazy year for Kolo Muani. And when you think back to when we got him, number one, we got him at the end of the window, not at the beginning of the window. So he didn't have the whole camp with us because he was dealing with injuries. And that was the thing, right? So when we got him, we still didn't necessarily play him for a few weeks, because he was coming back from, whatever injury he was coming back from. And when we got him, back on the pitch, it took him a while for him to kind of get into the swing of things. And at the same time, you're talking about a player that doesn't necessarily fit the style of play in which we want our strikers to play in. And I don't think he just ever really got into form. And one of the things about Kolo Muani specifically, the reason why he's been able to excel a little bit in the Champions League is look at our Champions League draws this year. Outside of Villarreal and outside of PSG, in which he scored, we've had a relatively light Champions League phase. And so it's actually kind of played into it, where he's been able to take advantage of weaker competition. Whereas in the Premier League, he has actually struggled to find form in the Premier League, to the point where he was playing out left at one point because that's the only way he could get on the field. And so there was a lot of disruption with that. What I will say is there's no chance that we're going to cancel unless we, for instance, let's just say that we end up with Jean-Philippe Mateta. I know that name has been thrown out there, where if we bring in another striker where we could allow him to leave, but me personally, I just don't think it's going to happen. So from that standpoint, the last thing you want to do is let this dude go back to Juventus and all of a sudden we draw Juventus in the round of 16, and all of a sudden now you're actually going to have to play against him, going back to a team in which he's familiar with, and that's kind of a roll of the dice that you don't want to take. But also considering that we only have 2 informed strikers right now, it's Randall Colomuani and Dominic Solanke. We just got rid of Dane Scarlett, and who knows what Richarlison's going to look like when he comes back. And so from that standpoint, regardless of form, you're still going to need Randall Colomuani, and you're just kind of hoping that form translate into whatever goals he's able to produce for us at the Premier League level. That's kind of what the hope is at this stage, because I would probably assume that he's not going to be back next year. But there's also a case to be made that he's just going to use this Champions League as a way to potentially market himself for that next move this upcoming summer.
Yeah, he's got to do that. Alan, I mean, one player has really caught my eye. I mean, I liked him before. We didn't know if he was going to settle in that quickly in the Premier League. But I just think that Xavi's been outstanding.
What I like about Xavi is he's progressing. Like I remember when he first came on, there was so much expectation on his shoulders, and he didn't knock it out of the park. He really didn't even make it to first base in the beginning. I think he was on the ground a lot. People were complaining, it seems like he can't run without getting knocked down. I think he was getting used to a new style where it's like, hey, no one cares who you are, where you came from. You're just going to get knocked down no matter what in the Premier League. And that's a harsh reality for people who like Xavi excelled everywhere else. And so I think he didn't let that get to him, or if he did, he hit it well, because he's been on a steady incline. He's been getting better and better. And, with injuries, I think he has stepped up more and more as the playmaker, even if his final execution isn't always awesome. I don't think I ever had that expectation that he's kicked balls over. He had a great goal. I thought the goal was in, to be honest. I thought that it was very soft, and I thought Xavi put it in very quickly. At that point, I was so disappointed because at that point when he put it in, I don't think Frankfurt had even touched the ball. So it was an amazing set of plays to set that whole situation up, and I was very disappointed for him. But I think Xavi is a player who I think is going to be a star for us. Right now, he's sort of on the ascendancy in that regard, and I think that by the end of the season, I think we'll be like, how could we live without the guy?
Yeah, he's got a good football IQ, Steve. I mean, he moves the ball quickly, and he's like Maddison. He's got that quick half turn to lose a player, and and move the ball from left to right quickly. He's also got that vision to put the pass through. Not all the passes come, but I think he's been a bit clever now. He's learning a bit not to hold the ball on too level, and he's putting some decent challenges in as well, Steve.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm just going to add to the brilliance of what Alan just said, and he's able to do that every once in a while. Good on you, Al. I'm just messing with you, but what I will say is that these 2 Champions League fixtures that we've just recently had have been an absolute boon for a guy like Xavi, because one of the things that I think that he struggled with is the pace and the physicality of the Premier League, because some of these defenders were unknown to him. It's one thing that he looks good in the Bundesliga because he had time to embed and he had time to play, and he was a finished product by the time that he left. And now all of a sudden you're going to the Premier League, which is a massive step up. And yes, I'm sure he came with a load of confidence, but that being said, I don't think he understood exactly what he was getting into, and it took him a long time to really put some consistency together. But it's the exact same scenario with a guy like Dominic Solanke as well, too. Being able to score in 2 Champions League games is going to be able to give him some confidence moving forward. And you probably would expect there's going to be some correlation and translation into the Premier League as well, too. And it's the exact same thing with Xavi as well, too. It's like you're able to take these performances, and now all of a sudden you're going to be able to string together some consistent performances where now all of a sudden you're going into matches 100% confident. I guess the only question that I have about Xavi is that ankle. You know, because he took a knock a couple matches ago, and he played against Burnley with an ankle knock, and I'm curious to know exactly how that is, because I heard reports that there was swelling, and we were wondering whether or not he was going to play. Well, he's still playing, so I guess it couldn't necessarily be that serious, but that still is a little bit of a concern for me. But that being said, it's like clearly right now, when you're looking at the forward line, he's probably one of our two best players. Him and Solanke. You know what I mean? And it's like we can't afford him not being.
Where he's wised up. Where he's wised up. All right, he will take the ball on the player on when he hasn't really got an open option, but he seems to be like relying a bit. He's splitting out with his passing now, so he's not always going to get caught in possession. He can. I mean, like, he's not the biggest guy in the world, is he? But he can put in some tackles and that. I think his vision and turn, actually, he's quick across that midfield. He's no slouch, right?
No,
he's quick, and
he's very quick.
I think he's quicker than Maddison. Actually, maybe Maddison just a bit more thoughtful. That split second, like, take his time a bit more, or finds that split second, because you don't get a split
extra
second
experience.
Yeah.
Well, what's this? Xavi kind of is a good example of why you want experience at times over youth. Mm-hmm. You know, with someone like Odegaard or Matisse Tell, you kind of have to give them not just a season. You can't just say, "Oh, this 18 or 19-year-old, they didn't do it this season, they're done." You can't really do that to them. They're still learning. There's so much to learn. But someone like Xavi, who even coming from an outside league into the Premier League, I saw someone was saying that within like 12 months, you expect that they should be ready to go, polished, the final form kind of situation. And James Maddison has just got that extra experience. You know, he's and like a wiser Jedi. You know, he kind of has that ability. He doesn't need to be as quick, and he makes up for it in his gaming knowledge and his game knowledge and whatnot.
Well, the thing about Xavi real quick is that he's at his best when on the counterattack and when the ball's played on his foot and he's able to run, because he has, he's in rhythm and he's in momentum where his distribution is absolutely world class. And he can also be a goal threat with his shots inside the box, right? One of the things that I noticed early on was the fact that when we slow things down and we're in our little horseshoe, we take our little horseshoe shape, right? His ability to skin defenders within inside a 3-foot box, trying to get the inside shoulder to make an inside run or play a ball in, just wasn't there. And as this thing has progressed, he's gotten a little bit better in certain areas, right? But that's going to be the challenge for him. By season's end, is he going to be able to play two ways? And it feels like he's kind of getting there right now.
I'm waiting for him to put a screamer in from outside the box, because he's going to do that.
Yeah.
He will. Or score from a free kick, because he will do that if Porro don't, grab the ball off him, right? So, or Maddison's not on the pitch, or Decky's not taking it, or whatever.
Yeah, he needs a Kulusevski or a Maddison on the pitch, right? So it draws attention away from him.
We need them both on the pitch together, because, as you've alluded to with goals up top, one, you can criticise our forwards, whatever 3 from 6 we pick when they're fit or whatever it is, but as you said, they haven't scored enough goals. And with Maddison and Kula, they gave us 22 goals last season. Yeah. These are midfielders and wingers, right? So we need them goals back. So I don't care. I mean, you may be a Maddison over a Kulusevski fan or vice versa. I like both of them, and we need both of them in this team because of the goals they contribute. We're not going to win matches if we don't score goals, So
imagine a midfield 3 of Maddison, Kulusevski, and Xavi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've got,
I'm worried about Kulusevski, though.
We're not giving the ball away, that's for sure, right? Not often.
Do you know how he's doing?
Not often. Yeah, so apparently, word was he went down to Barcelona to get another shot in his knee. He's been on the grass just like Maddison, but for whatever reason, he's not being able to be pain-free week after week. There's, I think that was a kneecap injury, right?
Yeah.
And so he went down and got another shot in his knee just to see if that helps. And I even heard reports that there might have been some stem cell therapy as well too. So
Oh,
we'll
wow.
see.
Well, I mean,
We'll see.
look, I've seen him in the gym and the videos. I've seen Madison out on the grass, so he's
Yeah.
not long away. He's kicking footballs and doing all that. So I could see Madison back the end of February.
He's
It
got
was
new
only
twins.
Monday.
He has reason to want out of the house at this point.
But
He
by the
wants
way,
to try and get an England squad.
how amazing would that be if he is back on the grass playing football in less than 10 months from an ACL injury?
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
gotta
just
be
want
that's
to
gotta be
talk
a
about Russia.
that's gotta be a record recovery because usually it's about 10 to 12 months. Yeah.
Okay, we've discussed players. Let's get back to this. Spurs finished fourth in his 6 clean sheets from 8 games. I mean, like, Vicario has to get some credit in here somewhere. 6 clean sheets, surely, Alan.
I mean,
Monaco, especially Monaco away.
you know,
I mean, like,
I don't like using the term Spursy, but this is the sort of play style, you know, that we can go to the Europa League and win the Europa League, become, you know, 17th, and here we are 14th, and yet we are 4th above the likes of PSG, Barcelona, and, you know, Man City. It's just weird. You know, I don't know why we are this way or what it is about non-Premier League games that we somehow find a way to make turn to our advantage. But we're just a tale of 2 teams. It's like we play one way one time and then another way in the Premier League. I'm really, you know, thinking ahead to Man City. You know, generally speaking, we have them on toast. So, but they've been very good lately.
Yeah, I'm not having it when you see, again, commentators anti-Spurs. Right, I get some of the Spurs fans being negative because of our form, league form, saying, "Oh yeah, but it's easy. We got an easy team. We got an easy draw. We did get a good draw." But having said that,
Great draw.
right?
Great draw.
If you go away in Europe and you get a draw, let alone a win away, that is a good result. And when you consider we got last year when you're you only played Bodo Glint and all that. Yeah, well, they just spanked Man City, you know, in their ground. I mean, and they played well against us as well, so they weren't a bad team.
They did. They were harder.
Results, you know.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, right? Outside of Villarreal, who are 3rd in La Liga, who we ended up beating, and PSG, you know, when you looked at that draw, the expectation is that we would do something like we did, which is finish within the top 8 and be competitive, even in those matches against Dortmund, Villarreal, and PSG, which is exactly what we ended up doing. Right. I think from that standpoint, the expectation is, considering the draw that we had, we didn't play Barcelona, we didn't play Bayern Munich, we didn't play any of the European heavies outside of PSG, really, in this draw. Comparatively speaking to the Premier League, it was night and day easier. And so this is like, even with our roster limitations, there probably wasn't any excuse that we would. This is and for me, this is where I kind of get pissed off, is the fact that we can maintain form in the Champions League because of the level of where some of these teams are at versus the Premier League. That's where, you know, that's where I kind of get a little upset, because it's, you know, if we're able to do this and look outstanding in the process, there should be no excuse for for our play with inside the league as well too. You know what I mean? That's
I mean,
that's where I'm at.
I think, you know, you show it in some games, form in others. No team's on top form all season. Even if you go to Arsenal, Man City, they didn't go out and spank everyone by 3 clear goals every game they played. They didn't. They struggled against Leicester teams, even lost away at Leicester teams. So a lot of that's in. And this squad, I've said it, right? The positives we've got from such poor league form is that 5 youngsters have been allowed to develop. Like Gray, I knew he would. Bergvall towards the latter part of last season, because Gray played a lot of games, right? And then you've got the other 3 coming in, Moani, Tell, and Odebert, who are now looking players, still got to step up even more. But that's the positive you get when you're in dire straits. You know, there's always some light at the end of the tunnel, that these players have kicked on and raised their game, but they need to get to the level and be consistent at that level, you know. But yeah, I mean, what this means finishing 4th, apart from the fact that I expected us to get to the playoffs, whatever happened. I've said from the beginning we're not winning it, right? Barring we shit a miracle or something, you never know. But in football's a funny game. I mean, like you could play a top team, they get a player sent off, and suddenly game on. You know,
Yep.
I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in a game of football. So, I mean, on form, you can usually say, yeah, this team's going to beat that team, but that doesn't always happen. So we like to bring you facts on Spurs diehards, the 48 of you, 50 of you that are watching us on various platforms. If you like the content, please go to our YouTube page and subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up because it helps the algorithm. So we bring you a fact now, in case any of you don't know. Teams who finish in the top 8 are guaranteed a second leg at home in the round of 16. Teams who finish in the top 4 are guaranteed a second leg at home in the round of 16 and the quarterfinals. So if we get to the quarterfinals, we still play the away leg first. I mean, that was where I thought the best we were going to get is quarterfinals, then get knocked out.
Yeah.
But well, we don't know what our form's going to be like, and if we get a couple of players back, who knows? I mean, like even then, I mean, when you look at Bayern and PSG have underperformed, but they barely qualified last year and then they won the competition, right? And then Real Madrid are in the playoffs because of the Benfica. I didn't see the Benfica goalkeeper score the goal. They got them through.
How about Jose? How about Jose helping out his
Opening at Real Madrid?
Yeah, look at that.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Are the players incentivized in Europe? You know, if we make it so far, they get a certain amount of money or something like.
There'll be win bonuses, Alan. There are on every contract, aren't there?
Yeah,
if you win a trophy as well, there'll be bonuses. Yeah,
I think there's a certain amount of money just for qualifying and getting in, and then you get money per win, and then if you advance, I think I read somewhere Spurs got like what 45 million for advancing,
something like that. Yeah, it's like 48
for the knockout
45.
rounds. Yeah,
now that might be
somewhere
about gate receipts and things like that. That figure could well be 70, 75 mil.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we know we're earning loads of money. I'm sure the likes of Sean Butler or Connor S, who's an accountant, or Kieran Maguire, especially the Brighton who teaches football accounts at a Liverpool University, lectures on it. We've had him on our show before. Don't know if Ian's going to get him back. Hope he does. I'm pretty sure he'd come up with a more accurate figure. They're saying 40 odd mil now. I think it's more than that. I mean, like, I don't know. I think that just includes what you get off them. I'm not sure how games are. I mean, average league game, if we've got, 58,000, you're talking about 6 million a game.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, that's just
beer and
that number.
5 million.
Yeah, that number is
receipts, and then you got advertising and all that ribbon advertising, TV rights. I mean, like, you're talking a lot. Look, you're talking a lot of money because at a game you do that, right? So you make 120 million a year, say at home games, say 20 games at 6 mil, bit more now, right? But just on average, say a normal season with like 20 games at 6 mil. Bear in mind that's only like 20% of their income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because we're making 550 mil, and this year we probably make 600, right? Because we're in the Champions League. Next year we probably won't be in it. We might get Europa League, which I wouldn't mind because then we can win that. We can win that, right? So like, that'd be an easier trophy to go for, right? Less money. You only make about 25 mil getting through that. We've all made more than that already, right? So that's all good. Right. I'm going to pose a question to you and to use in the chat. We've got a few. I'm going to go over the comments, and I've got a question for you all. Right, what's this one, Connor? Home from you. Yeah. Look, sometimes I'll tell you what gets me, Connor. No, right? Is we get all this criticism from these so-called pundits on here. Yeah. Oh, the difference in form, blah blah blah. And if I rang up, I'd be saying, well, you're supposed to be the so-called experts. You tell us why we've got different form. You tell us, right? Instead of having a snipe at our club all the time at every opportunity that you like doing. You tell us what you think the problem is. I don't think there's anything at all. I just think we're just out of form. Frank's not as awful as people make out. Our club might be a bit too high a level for him. And he's not been used to playing a game every 3 days. I think that's caught up with him. Don't think he's a bad manager. I think his press conferences are absolute crap, right? but like, and I like, all right, he's got that. Man City at home. We'll come on to that later, but I get the feeling Anna might stick with him. And this result has helped him a lot, but we'll discuss that in a minute. So Right, where was the next banner? Oh, the question I was going to give you guys. Either of you, who do you want out of these? And in the chat, who do you want? And I don't know what form these clubs are in. We know that Juventus and Atletico are bigger names than the other two, but I don't know. I think Juventus, they're not top of their league. They're struggling.
The team that I don't want to see is Atletico Madrid, because to get around a 16 opponent, because one of the things that will happen is a guy like Diego Simeone is going to completely outcoach it. He's going to completely outcoach Thomas Franco for two legs. Really, the team that you want probably is Club Brugge or Juventus. Juventus is not the Juventus of old. Good team, not great, and over two legs, especially if the second leg is going to be at the stadium. This team has the wherewithal to go down to Turin and get a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win, and kind of being in the driver's seat. Same thing at Club Brugge. The only thing, the bogey here is Galatasaray, and going to Turkey, going to Istanbul, and that hellfire, and trying to find a result. Yeah, we didn't do so well last time. A lot of teams struggle when they go to Istanbul. But if we can draw like a Club Brugge or a Juventus, I think that would be ideal. Atletico Madrid, man, that would be a tall order.
Aren't Club Brugge really good at home? Like this season, I think.
They've got one player we're looking at, Nathan De Cat, we were looking at.
Yeah.
We looked at baller. But the Belgians produce good players for their national team.
Yeah, Club. Is it Brugge or Bruges? Because I think I've been mispronounced.
I think they call it Brugge, but we call it Bruges, being English.
Yeah, because But don't get me wrong. It's like, and what's interesting about it is still it's the exact same thing that we've seen so far in the Champions League. Because of our league form, we have these preconceived notions, but yet the level of talent, we still possess a level of talent that's still a cut above, where we can go to a place like Club Brugge and come away with a result where we're in the driver's seat coming home. It is going to a place like Madrid and trying to have to keep the score 0-0 against a team like Atletico, and the attacking acumen in which Diego Simeone has at his disposal. That's probably where our Champions League run comes to an end.
But he's he's more hit on the break, isn't he? He's more defense orientated, Simeone, isn't he?
Yeah, but it's weird. They kind of play. Here's the thing. It's like in their counterattacking, I saw a lot of Atletico this summer because they were playing in the Club World Cup. And I saw a lot of Atletico this summer. It's weird because on the counterattack, they're very direct and they can absolutely can gut you like a fish if you're not careful. But yet in the buildup, they also kind of play this, this methodical high possession based buildup as well too, a la, PSG or a la Liverpool or whatever the case may be, Man City. And they can also play that way as well too. And so they absolutely can attack you in multiple different ways. And it's very hard to set up defensively against that team. So,
and Galatasaray, Alan, I mean, like when we played them, all right, we lost 3-2. Lancashire scored, got sent off, didn't he, in that game? They could have had 5 against us, but you can pick them off because if that's the way they play in all their games. I don't watch Turkish football. They play a sort of handball style of football. It's just hell for leather, basically.
Well, they have a lot of talent on this team now. I know they picked up Leroy Sané from Bayern Munich. Their team is fairly talented, and they have Osimhen up front, who's always going to be dangerous no matter what. He scored against us. You give him an inch, he took it and scored. So they do have a lot of talent, and they even have our old Davinson Sanchez who still starts for them. But there is a lot of talent on that team. And I think that going to Istanbul that's where it is, right? In Istanbul, that they're
it's the final in Hungary. They're in Turkey. It's all about in Istanbul for Galatasaray.
Yeah, for Galatasaray. That place it's a fortress. I remember listening it, on TV. It's super loud there, very intimidating. The crowd is very one-sided. it's and it's intimidating, I think, for the players, to have to go to an environment like that.
Oh, they're like the German leagues. Their fans sing for 90
That's a
odd
good
minutes
team.
of the losing
Love the
5
German
They
fans.
still keep singing, yeah.
They were so great, the
It's
German
part of the culture, that they've
Yeah.
got.
Man, that's a good team though. Like I forgot they have Mauro Icardi. Yeah, they have Victor Osimhen. They got Yasser Asprilla, Leroy Sané. Shit, they even got Ilkay Gundogan on that team. That they're the veteran German midfielder.
I know the
It's like
players
that
go
team.
there because the tax law of wages, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how old these players are. I mean, Osimhen he was talked of as £100 million plus player, and he was let go after was it with Napoli? Was he with Napoli?
He was in Napoli.
Yeah.
There was like some issue.
And they let him go. Now, I don't know. Some of these players have got an attitude problem with coaches and things like that. Lookman's rumored to have it. I mean, we know Ndombele was just a lazy bastard. And but some of these players, they were quite keen to get rid of Osimhen. So I don't know there must be some sort of hidden issue there that we haven't heard about behind him, right? And I don't know how old these players are now.
There was an issue.
Right?
Yeah, there was an issue with the coaching at Napoli to the point where he just didn't necessarily want to play there, and his play on the field reflected that. And so they loaned him out originally. I think it was a loan originally that got him to Galatasaray, and I still think it's a loan. I don't think that they have purchased him outright. I think it's maybe it's a loan still, because I think his value is somewhere in that. Did they? Because I remember seeing last year that his valuation is somewhere in that $70 million range, and I didn't necessarily think Galatasaray had the wherewithal to buy a player like that.
No, I will answer your question, mate. When the draw was originally made, it's a bit like the World Cup and all that. I know we'd all like a free rolling draw, but the teams are stacked like this: 1, 2, 3, 4 in their groups. And then they came out in pairs, and then if it's 8, that will go down to 4. And it just all depends. If you beat so and so, you meet them, or a bit like last year in the Europa League, exactly the same. We thought we were going to meet Lazio, but they got knocked out, right? And it's just we could meet any one of the 4 teams that Liverpool can meet. That's basically it, right? And Liverpool can meet the same teams. So that's just how that works. Mindset.
Do you also know that it was weird, because it seemed like the luck came to us last year in the Europa League, where when you looked at what the road that Manchester United had to get to that final versus our road, it seemed like everything kind of fell our way, and it almost feels like it's going to play out that way this year as well too. And if we're fortunate enough to get like a Juventus or a Brugge in the round of 16 and advance to the quarterfinals, the deeper that we go, it's going to allow us to get some of our players back and on the pitch, and potentially be available for some of these matches, especially if we can actually get past the quarters. Because if we happen to be lucky to do that, and all of a sudden we get a Madison and a Kulusevski back, that's greatly going to increase our opportunities to potentially get to a final. Because one of the things that I don't know how you feel about this, Alan, is as of right now, when you look at our bench for European play, we have a lot of kids. And a lot of academy products, and we're going to need some of these players back if we're going to shock the world and pull off a Champions League miracle. We're going to need these players back, right? And so the deeper we can go, the deeper that we go, it buys us time. It buys us a little bit more time for us to get some of our more important players back in the first team.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
All right, we've had a little talk about this. We'll move on to transfer latest. I mean, there've been some ridiculous rumours going around. One was like Raheem Sterling is 31. He's done. He hasn't got the hunger no more. I've been reading reports on him and all that. And then
he doesn't get a lot of play time. When he went to Chelsea, they didn't give him much opportunity to kind of really play. Yeah. And he'd been held back before that, wherever he was before. Was he with after Chelsea? Where did he go?
Arsenal, wasn't it?
I don't remember. Oh, maybe it was Arsenal. They didn't really give him much of a shake either.
All ex-Chelsea players go to Arsenal, don't they? Right. Yeah. So
they just didn't give him much of an opportunity. He has the capacity. The question is he able to execute the way he had been, when he was at Man City?
And we keep getting linked with Bayern Munich players, Gnabry now, or like Goretzka. Now, guys, if you're out there listening, just my take on this, whether I'm right or wrong, right? Bayern Munich are going strong. They're going to win the Bundesliga, probably the German Cup. You know, they'll probably win the boat race if they've got one out there, right? And like these players may be 30 or coming to the end of their contracts in the summer, but they're in the Champions League. If you're a player for Bayern and you might get injury cross, are you going to leave that club where you've got a very good chance to win? And they're flying Bayern, so they've got a very good chance of winning this Champions League. I mean, I don't see those players going anywhere else, Steve.
I think that, number one, I don't think Leon Goretzka actually fits the style of play in which we want to play. It almost feels like he's kind of almost cut the same mold as a guy like Conor Gallagher. And since we already have Conor Gallagher, we don't need another one. And Serge Gnabry wants to stay at Bayern Munich, and I think Leon Goretzka wants to stay as well too. And I was hearing that when it comes to him, he's probably going, like they want to actually sign him to a contract extension. So I don't think either are going to end up here at Spurs. But I will say this, that, and I hate to be the one to say it, we're kind of in a position where bakers can't be choosers. Because we came into the January window without necessarily a concrete plan on how to get a forward player through the door. And we were linked to a guy like Jan Diamante, who, I was hearing back in November that there was no chance they were going to let him go in January. That's going to be a summer move. And then it was Magnus Akalushe. And the only problem with Akalushe was whether or not they were going to have enough time to replace him in the January window. And what Monaco was looking to accomplish this season, that also was going to be a summer move. And so now here we are 2 days away, 3 days away from the end of the
Monday at 7 o'clock. Monday at 7 o'clock when we check.
3 days away from the end of the window. And you do have a guy like Raheem Sterling who is available. And I will say this, though, and it's like, on the one hand, I tend to agree with you that I'm kind of wondering how much tread is left on that tire. But the reality is, if we can't identify somebody in the next 3 days that is going to be able to come in and radically improve this team, then at least you have Raheem Sterling for the rest of the year. And I would rather be in a position where we have him and potentially not be able to use him because there's nothing left. I would rather have him. By the way, I understand Spurs fans' sentiments because I kind of feel the same way because of his last two teams that he's played for. A lot of Spurs fans are just like an automatic no across the board. But that being said, I look at this as a position where we absolutely need a forward player through the door. And if that means him for the rest of the season on a 6-month contract, we actually have somebody that actually is going to be playing week in and week out in the Premier League. Because if you sign a guy like Raheem Sterling, he is going to be playing pretty much every single week. And that's actually going to help this team because at least there's going to be some stability on that left-hand side.
Yeah,
he won't be
I
out for
hope
6
not.
months, David Clark. No.
And I do think,
No,
he actually, I actually think he's the type of player because of the fact that both Chelsea and Arsenal kind of disrespect him a little bit by only using them as a guy coming off the bench just for for 10 minutes, where he himself looks at him as still something left to prove. Me personally, I never bet against those type of players.
Yeah, Niall O'Connor, has it worth bringing these players? It doesn't, mate. They won't be coming in. Not if you're talking about Maddison and Kulusevski, simply because the window closes on Tuesday the 2nd, but we have to register our Champions League list on the 5th February. That's my understanding. So they won't be in it. Kulu and that they will not be in the Champions League squad. So Madison's homegrown. So unless they put Maddison in there to help out, just because he's homegrown, even though he won't be fit until later. They could do the same with Kulu, but the difference with Kulusevski, he counts as a foreign player. So I'll let you come in, Steve, because I know you're going to make a point on this.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If once you get past the round of 16, you can reshuffle your roster every single round that you advance. Correct?
No, you can only bring. My understanding is you can only bring in 3 players to add to that squad. right? You can't bring in any more. And then once you're registered, that's it. So we got rid of Johnson, we brought Conor Gallagher in. So it's one homegrown for another. So I mean, we're in the same position as a lot of other Premier League teams are as well. We can register a squad of 22, right? But that's not the end of the world, because that doesn't include your under 21s that qualify. So you've got all the under 21s that on the B list, right? You've got them. And that's what other clubs do. Ideally, you'd want the more experienced, you'd want the 25, but I don't know any team in the Premier League that's got the 25. But I'm sure someone will tell me if I'm wrong.
I'll tell you what, though, if you are Thomas Frank and you know for a fact that you're going to eventually get Kulusevski back, and maybe you get Madison back a little earlier, maybe that's the gamble by putting both of them on your Champions League roster, understanding that you're going to be able to get at least one of those two back.
I want Akliouche because he fills a lot of holes.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Maybe I said I don't mind if the squad's bloated. Then worry about getting rid of players in the summer. Right? You've got a bloated squad. But Andrew says he don't want those short-term fixes. I don't see Mainz Akliouche as a short-term fix. I see him as a very versatile player that can fill a multiple of roles in our team. And I just think now, the price they wanted 50-odd mil, they was all saying that's dropped down to 40 and all that. I think if Monaco sell for 35, 40 mil, I think we might be in there. The other one that's mentioned, Robertson. Well, John Wenham is still saying there's a good chance this deal, or he thinks likely this deal will go through, because he thinks the Greek fullback that Liverpool got out on loan at, forget where it is.
You're talking about Kostas Tsimikas?
Yeah, that he'll be going to Liverpool, and look, that makes good business for them, right? I know he's well loved by Liverpool fans, Robertson.
I'd be very happy
if you're getting 5 mil when you're getting nothing in the summer, and the amount of money you've spent on players, that's good business still. I mean, 5 mil might seem peanuts in the transfer window, but it helps with your FFP, right? So it helps. So, and I think they would do the deal if they've got cover. I think this Robertson deal could still get done. I'd take him. Yeah, true. Vice captain there.
Yeah. I just see
and if we got this guy as well, I'd be happy. Conor Gallagher and him, forget Sousa, is a good window. It's not fantastic.
I think, sure. I just think Akliouche is going to be a summer move. Just because now, by the way, now if this was something we got in the first week of the window, that would have been absolutely brilliant. Just because, from that standpoint, you actually have to have a dance partner. And that's the issue with 3 days left. I just don't see that happening now. But again, I just look at this as an opportunity for this team just to get somebody on the forward line through the door. Mm-hmm. Because I just don't think that we're going to end up with Akliouche. I could be wrong. But it's better to have somebody than nobody at all.
David Clark, I thought Madison's injury was ACL and that Kulu's is the knee injury.
Yeah, I thought it was the same. Yeah. I thought Kulu had the kneecap injury.
Oh, and they're saying that the fullbacks at the Greek fullbacks at Napoli. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
He's in that. Oh, he is?
Right. Okay.
Then it must be a different person.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think he's at Napoli. Yeah.
So I thought Tsimikas was at Roma.
This would have alarmed a lot of fans. No short-term fixes, because it looks like we're not trying to get anyone in, and they're just using an excuse, But I just think that most weekends they probably don't bother when there's 3 months of 12 weeks or whatever it is, or 11 weeks in the summer that used to be. But we've got the World Cup, so that transfer window will be a bit weird, and the whole point of players getting any sort of rest will be non-existent because of the World Cup.
Didn't he say that the Premier, being a coach in the Premier League is not like Football Manager?
Yeah, he said that in his look. I mean, most press conferences. And then he started pumping up Gueye because he was asked the question. Just say he's a good player and move on, right? Yeah. We're not here to pump up other clubs' players. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's very weird.
Pump ours up by all means, right?
You'd think that they had a PR group. You'd think that Tottenham would have a PR team working with Frank on his press skills, his ability to orate in front of people, it's just not very good.
Right, let's move on to Man City at home. Right now, I put this up. This is more me being a bit facetious, really, because I was one of those when we played Man City and lost, and the Man City won the league over Arsenal. I was one of us who wanted to win the game at White Hart Lane because I'm old school. A lot of the young generation wanted us to. They wouldn't care if we'd thrown the game, right? Just because they wanted the 3 points. We've got a similar situation I've seen in chats again. So I put this up. Is this game a threat for Frank to help the Man City title channel? Or is any result a no-win situation for Frank's tenure? Steve? Is Frank still toast? Is he still toast? Or is he burnt toast, or now is he just brown toast?
No, as far as I'm concerned, he still is, and that's the thing. You were talking a little bit earlier about how he's not doing all that bad. It's like no. We have a very large sample size for the fact that in the Premier League he can't string together 2 halves of football and have one consistent 90 minutes. I think maybe the only example of that was maybe against Man City, second game of the season. But it was the second game of the season, and so from that standpoint, it's like he has a hard time making the correct substitutions in the Premier League. We saw in that Burnley game moving Christian Romero forward in an attempt of desperation just to try to equalize. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we have a large sample size that lets you know that Thomas Frank within the Premier League at least is well over, very much in over his head at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, what I will say is, here's the thing, right? Like, if they're able to carry over that form from the midweek, and this is something that is not just a Thomas Frank issue. This was actually last year with Ange as well too. Being able to take that European form and push it into the Premier League and absolutely kind of get 2, 3, maybe 4 on the bounce and actually get rolling in the right direction. That's the problem. It's like every single time we have those performances, we always end up coming short on the weekend. And then all of a sudden we have to actually have these talking points again, right? So from that standpoint, until Thomas Frank actually can do that and actually show that he can, he's able to motivate his team to actually carry over that momentum from European play, then it's fair game as far as I'm concerned. But again, it's like you would like to think that this would be an opportunity to get a win, because we seem to be that bogey team for Manchester City, regardless of what kind of form we're in. We always seem to manage to do well against them. But that being said, it's like, if this happens again, like we saw against Chelsea or we saw against Arsenal the first time around, where we show them too much. We show them too much respect, and all of a sudden we spend the first 45 minutes essentially pinned back in our own territory because we're not progressing the ball forward, even on counterattacking situations. And we're in this position again where we're trying to nick a goal late because we're trying to either find a result or we're trying to battle a way back into it. We're going to be back at square one. So is this a free hit? I don't think so. I just think this is I think what this is going to do is, I think this weekend is going to reinforce what I think we all know about Thomas Frank.
I said on record, Alan, that I didn't think anything would be done with Frank until after the transfer window. I said he's definitely gone in the summer. Definitely gone in the summer. So, but is he burnt toast both sides, or is he lightly brown on one side and he's going to survive to the summer?
I'm not really a fan of where we're at with him at the moment, which is the play it game by game. I don't like that. I don't. It's, if anything, it brings more instability because the players that are there, regardless of quality, could be playing better, I think, with stability. And Thomas Frank is kind of being put on this very tight lead. And I think I'm all for putting coaches' feet to the fire, but I think that we either need to let him go or back him until the end. Someone needs to come out and say, look, we made the decision, we're going to part ways, or we made the decision, we're going to give Thomas until the end of the season, just to get, so that question is out of people's minds. Everybody can move on, bring some more stability to the potential incomings so that they know, hey, this is the coach who's going to be there at least until the summertime. if they wanted to come in the January window. Whereas we don't necessarily know if he loses to Man City, is he gone? No one seems to know. And what's bad and what I'm seeing in this transfer window is players want to know who their coach is going to be. It's part of the draw. Whether we liked his style of play or not, people came because of Ange when he was here. People wanted to come because of Ange. People come because of certain coaches, and I think that we may not necessarily have the reputation that Real Madrid has, or that kind of name recognition, that depth of winning recently, like a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich, but we do have the grounds, and we have a good coach. You hope for a good coach to be the combination that brings in good players. But right now, I think any player would be a little nervous and say, well, I don't know who the coach is going to be, so I don't want to have to even consider an offer from you guys until you know for certain who's going to be with you, at least until the end of the season.
The problem is there'll be loads of managers available at the end of the season because of the World Cup, the sackings, and all that, and Poch, blah blah.
There is something like what Manchester United just did, and hire an interim. There's, to me, even an interim.
If the interim might be an answer. I'll go with that. Yeah, and if you were bringing in, then when you bring your interim in, and he Spurs DNA, and then you bring someone in the summer who Spurs DNA as well, that's fine with me. I'm not fine you bring an interim in. You've got Frank now, right? You've got 15 league games to go, right? And you're throwing 15 league games away. You bring an interim who's going to play a different style of football. You're throwing that away. Where's the growth and progress? Where's the pattern going to come? If you could bring someone in who was Spurs DNA, which would be like ex-players, you could take Robbie Keane for Ferencváros or something like that. If you
was just about to say that.
And this is the other thing.
Robbie Keane's not going to leave. There's no one readily available that I think Spurs fans would take to. Well,
unless you could get Xavi in, they'd rather wait and see where they stand. They hedge their bets.
Right. Well, Keane's not going to leave Ferencváros for a 5-month gig only to be replaced in the summer. You know what I mean? Like, he would only come if he knew for a fact that he was going to get next year at the very least, right? And so I just don't necessarily think that makes a tremendous amount of sense. And also, he seems like the type of guy who would probably want to finish the season out at Ferencváros and then come in and being able to have an entire transfer window and also have a summer to get the team ready for the Premier League. But what I will say is that I've always thought that you're absolutely right, Adrian. You have to show some level of stability within the transfer window. It's a little bit different for Manchester United because they weren't going to be active in the January window. They already weren't going to give Home Dude more money on top of the money that they already did, and they ended up sacking him, so it didn't matter. And the same thing with Chelsea as well too, with Enzo Maresca. And so it's two completely different situations. We actually wanted to bring players in because we absolutely needed to. And one of the things you can't do is sack a coach and then still try to sell the club that it's stable in that situation. I actually thought it would end up being all the way through February. I thought like Thomas Frank was going to be in it through these next 4 matches. But now that we've extended in the Champions League, and I believe the first Champions League round of 16 match is going to be at the end of February, on the 27th, I believe. And so I would probably assume he's going to get the round of 16 as well too. And if we go out in the round of 16 at that stage, at that point, you can actually justify bringing in an interim because you only have like a month and a half, possibly 2. Yeah. And from that standpoint, we're probably going to stay up at that standpoint. By that, we should know whether or not we're going to be able to stay up.
Adrian, I got to run.
If we're in a relegation battle, by that point, have a good one, Alan.
Take it easy, brothers.
That's all right. Yeah, we've got a few things to discuss still. I mean, before we even get onto the predicted lineup, I want to go to like this first. This is the rumor that's doing the rounds. Leave it to sell his shares. I don't know the legalities in this. I don't know if he has to first offer them to ENIC or not before he sells. There was rumours he's selling them to a Asian conglomerate, which fills me with fear, basically, because this means the last thing I want to see is shares sold. This was my own problem with the conglomerate. If we're eventually going to get someone and buy a stake in a club and take the club over, fine. If we're not, and they're just going to be an investor and sit on and watch the value of their stock rise, I'm not happy with that either. I mean, we need a complete takeover. If Levy sells his shares and it's a group of 5, 6, 7 businessmen, I don't like that. It could be a ploy by Levy to get ENIC to buy his shares. You alluded to it on your show earlier, Steve. Yeah. So give us your take.
Well, the what it looked like to me was that ENIC were trying to dilute the value of his 30% so they can actually buy him out at a lower rate. Because I got the impression that ENIC is going to eventually sell, and they wanted to sell it owning 100% of the club, so they can actually get the full value of it. But of course, Daniel Levy, being Daniel Levy, he's not, in my estimation, I don't think he's an idiot at all. I think he understands exactly what the worth of his 25 years as chairman of club, and also the value of his 30%, which if they were selling it today, he would probably walk away with $1 billion and a half. And so from that standpoint, I think, I think that he understands exactly where they're at in this situation. And now he puts them, he puts ENIC to the test, because, I think it was that Hong Kong group that is offering $1 billion, a little over $1 billion. And so from that standpoint, he has essentially drawn a line in the sand and just told ENIC straight up, if you want to match, you can go ahead and match. And it is what it is. But that being said, it also puts ENIC a little bit behind the 8 ball as well too, considering that the debt that this club is actually in, and then having to pay off $1 billion just to consolidate their ownership, puts them in a very precarious situation. But that being said, on the flip side, they also don't want this new ownership, even at a minority stake, considering it's probably people that they absolutely can't trust. And so it almost feels like the Lewis family are kind of in a no-win situation at the moment. And I actually think that the timing of this is actually incredibly precarious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think Daniel Levy did it on purpose. So
the issue I have is any stakeholder that comes in that buys a chunk of the club just secures ENIC's tenure. It makes the club harder to sell in the future, right?
Yeah.
Because then you've also got 30,000 small shareholders, right? Apart from like ENIC owning 86 or whatever, and whatever with Levy as well.
74.
Yeah, whatever the stake is, there's 30,000 small shareholders, and then there's the Tavistock Group, ENIC, that own the rest, and Levy owns part of Tavistock, doesn't he? So like he I understand him wanting to sell his shares, but again, I'd rather ENIC buy them. If anyone's going to buy them, at least you're narrowing down. Like, you haven't got to negotiate with different sets of people if someone wants to come in and buy the football club. And I said over 3 seasons ago, when fans used to get excited about an investor and all that, I'm going like, oh my God, what? You haven't given this enough thought. I'm not dissing them, just so you haven't thought this through and had things explained to you. You do not want loads of people with stakes in the football club.
No.
You want we want someone to come in and buy it. ENIC out, come and buy it. That's what we want. I've never wanted an investor, right? Especially not a conglomerate. One investor is better than like a dozen people chipping in, because that tells me they never afford to buy the club, but they know the club is going to grow in value. I mean, people think there's a gold mine to tap into this football club, not not the value that it is now. If you look at it globally, right, there is so much more. Our fan base is growing exponentially out there. In America, we've got more and more Spurs supporters clubs. You've got more and more people that will then buy TV streams up. You've got more and more people that will buy shirts. You get fans that are very loyal to your sponsors, so they buy off your sponsors. That's why your sponsors sponsor your club, things like that throughout the world. But I see one estimate that said in 10, 12, 4 years, the club could be worth 12 billion or something. And this is why, and not only that, it's going to go up in value because as I don't know what real estate's like in America because you've got a lot more land than we've got. You know, England would probably fit in Texas quite a few times over, right? But
yeah, but see,
land prices are very expensive. So Tottenham now is a poor borough, and it's got a shining jewel in its stadium, which creates over 3,000 jobs for people, right? So then once you start knocking down the buildings and putting up better buildings, the property values go up. Once the land and property values go up, the value of the stadium goes up. You know, as does most property, it always goes up in value. Even when there's a crash, it might level off, but then it goes up again. You know, property never seems to really decrease in value and never not recover. So I think people are looking long term. You know, besides that, if you've got to do it. If you're going to buy a football club, you don't buy the football club to buy money. This is why you'd like a Microsoft or an Elon Musk. You know, you could call it the SpaceX Stadium then or whatever, because it looks like a spaceship, to buy the stadium, because you're not paying that sort of money. Because look, if you pay 3.5 to 5 billion for Spurs, as an owner, you're not getting that money back in your lifetime, right? You're not, whatever money you spend through revenue streams or chipping in a few quid yourself, right? Fans, once you've spent it, fans will always want you to spend more. That's the nature of the beast with football and all sports. The fans, if you go and someone else takes your place, fans will want you, the new owner, to do the same thing, and that will happen exponentially in fans' minds, because that's the way the sport works. So when you buy a club like Spurs, a jewel in London, if you're Elon Musk, just as an example, and you're buying Tottenham Hotspur Football Club for, say he goes, I've got so much money, richest man, I'll buy it for £5 billion. He knows he's not going to get a return on his money. Where he gets his money back is
on sale.
He's in hook with hundreds or thousands of companies, right? Once Elon Musk gets involved in that, then companies want to share. So then the club gets more and more sponsors. He can wine and dine prospective clients at the stadium, get them to watch the football, maybe in the Super Bowl there one day, the boxing, the rugby, everything like that. And so then he gets more business partners and he gets more revenue in through
other things. Right, but all that does is bring the valuation of the club up, right? And so that's the thing. It's like when people buy football clubs, they're not doing it for the short term, they're doing it for the long term, right? When ENIC bought this thing back in 2000, 2001, they understood there was going to be years where they probably lost money. But if they did their job right, the valuation of the club was going to skyrocket. And that's exactly what happened, right? You buy it because it's a long-term play. And when you eventually do sell it, you're going to get your money back and then some, right? When the Lewis family eventually sells this, they're going to walk away with at least $5 billion, right? But that's where the trouble is, because how many people out there have at least $10 billion net worth where they can actually, or even more than that, where they can actually plop down the money, not only to buy the team, because you're going to need double what you buy it, and then you have to service the debt on top of that. And everything you said is 100% true. Everything that you said is 100% true, because everybody wants to get into the Premier League. It's the league where everybody wants to be a part of, but nobody can afford it outside of state-ran operations, whether it be Qatar or Saudi, or it's going to be a what's it called, a consortium that ends up taking.
Or you could go with, like, for example, Meta or Alphabet who own Google. They're worth over.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
They're worth $1 trillion, right? So
but these guys,
$5 billion is not. Is they can come up with it. Elon Musk could come up with it. Microsoft could come up with it.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, right? Like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, or the guy that owns Google, if they were interested in sports, we would have seen them actively participate in American sports. You would have seen them, right? And we haven't seen them do anything. The only tech guy who, the only tech billionaire who was interested in owning a sports team was Paul Allen. He was the guy that owned the Portland Trail Blazers and the Seattle Seahawks. He's passed away now, but he was the only one that had that type of civic mind or that civic pride in order to step up and do something like that. And it's like we haven't seen these guys want to take a step into something like that because they look at it as a volatile investment, right? When you start seeing, like when you saw John Henry buy Liverpool. There's a reason why he bought Liverpool, because it's a team that makes money every single season. It wasn't necessarily that volatile of a risk to take. And he was like, when the Fenway Group eventually sells Fenway, it's going to be like a $10 billion return, that type of thing. Same thing with the Blue Co that owns Chelsea as well too, right? That's a team that continuously makes money. Same thing with Spurs, right? And so that's for me. It's like, I don't think it's going to end up being one person. I think it's either going to be a state takeover, or you're going to see like an American consortium step in and try to buy it, or maybe Amanda Staveley or something.
I mean, like even with, I mean, you take national debt of the country like the UK. I mean, like that, them bonds are issued. I mean, like they go. I mean, these rich companies are the mutual assurance companies and the hedge funds. They're awash with money. They don't know what to do with it, but they want a return. You see, so they're going to be skeptical about moving into football, right? Because they don't want to be spending.
For everything you just said, because every single year the cost of winning continues to go up. It's expensive to win. And that's why you only see a handful of teams continue to spend money on a year in and year out basis, because one of the things they don't want to do is take a year to year loss, right? Which is why ENIC has always been that risk averse club that always kept their wage to revenue ratio at 42%, because there was only going to be a certain line that they would be willing to spend, and they weren't going to go over it. And that's the thing. It's like, if you're like with this whole Daniel Levy thing, and I think this is actually something that people need to think about. It's if ENIC turn around and give Daniel Levy his $1 billion, all that talk of ambition goes out the door. Because on top of the fact that they're going to have to tag on that $1 billion to the eventual sale price, when you talk, they're going to look at that as serviceable debt, just like their stadium. And the ambition that they talk about is not going to be the same.
1 second.
And that is the cold hard reality. It's like right now they're kind of in an advantageous position to sit there and talk about ambition, and maybe that's something that they absolutely want to do, is be ambitious. But that being said, if they're forced to pay out Daniel Levy for his 30%, all of that goes away.
I think it'd be £1 billion, not $1 billion.
That's what £1 billion. Billion.
So, or around that figure, if it's 3.5 million or whatever it is. But there's so many different quotes on the value of a business. So Spurs as a business with the training ground and everything else, we know it's a lot of money. It's either 3.5 billion upwards anyway. So I don't know. That's
a lot of
because
it's not just the sale price; it's also the debt that the club is in as well too, right? So
I mean,
that's a lot of money to service.
What I want ENIC gone, but like I want a one owner to come in, or a one company to come in that's got the money and extra. Not people who've got to scrape the funds together, because then the club's not going to move forward, because they're not going to be out. They're not going to invest money. They're all going to come in, all want a job, all want a fat salary, blah blah blah, and like we're going to be in the same situation or worse. And you've also got to be careful with no owners that they just don't milk the club. Just milk the club as well. Because remember a while back, at least Brian Daigle and others were going on about, as soon as the guy that owned the Texas Cowboys, there was a rumor about him. At least the protesters went, no, we don't want him, right? So that was good. I thought that's good. So at least, I mean, careful what you want, what you wish for when it comes to an owner. Don't get all excited and jump into it until we know more and we've done our due diligence on the owner. Because no rich owner is going to come in with a pure background. They're all going to be politically insensitive in some way or another. You just don't earn that sort of money without that happening.
Do you remember back in the day when Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea? He actually tried to buy Tottenham first. And this was like a year and a half after ENIC actually made their initial investment with an eye on taking over full control from Alan Sugar. But what's funny about it, it was Sven-Goran Eriksson was the guy when Abramovich said, I want to buy Tottenham. And he said, whoa. If you want to win, you buy Chelsea. And we actually, we were this close to actually having Roman Abramovich as our... Yeah,
this was all before stadiums, so we don't know if we'd have got the stadium or not. The one thing I'm grateful for, Olivia, is the stadium and a training ground. It is an attract. It does attract players and things like that. Nicely on the footballing side, obviously, but none of us are really. So that's the bill now. We're going to have to wait to see how this story runs, and what the real figures are, etc., etc. But so let's come out of here and go on to... I didn't get a chance. Oh, by the way, Alan, who was on earlier, You can find him here at Team Tottenham Go. So if you're watching on playback or watching there, get over to his YouTube channel and subscribe to that, please. Yeah, I'll hide that now. Right. Predicted lineup for Man City Sunday. I'm going to the game. I'm lucky to be a season ticket holder that lives a 1.5 miles from the ground. Yeah, I say lucky enough. I ain't seen many wins this season, but we need to do this two ways because Frank's thrown a curveball recently. We played well. We need to do a 5 at the back predicted lineup and a 4 at the back predicted lineup, really, which will affect the midfield and the front. So,
right.
Let's start with a 5 at the back. I mean, I'm assuming VDV was on grass, right? Frank's quiet said, "Oh, hang about." But if you're on grass, you're not injured.
Yeah,
you're not injured badly.
Right.
If you get a reaction, say, "Well, we don't want to risk you," but to me, that tells me VDV is fit, and I think he'd want to play anyway. So,
right.
So it's got to be Vicari and goal. So if it's a back four, I think we're going to say it's Udogie left, Spence right. Then I think you're looking at VDV, Romero, and Danso. Byfield will be on the bench if it's a 5. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with Vicario, and it's a shame that Kinski is potentially on his way out the door. It's a shame because I actually like Kinski, but yeah, I would say if it's a back 5, then it's probably going to be what Spence on the right, Danso, Romero, VDV, and then what Vicario, not Vicario, but Udogie.
Yeah. Udogie looked decent against Frankfurt. I know they say they're poor, but every time they beat a team, it's always because the opposition's poor, Steve. You know that as a Spurs fan. That's the way the media portray it most of the time.
Well, you're talking about a Frankfurt team that leaks goals for fun, right? They have not exactly been one of the better teams in Germany this year. So, you have to actually have some perspective on that match.
So, who's the 2 in midfield then? I mean, you've got a choice. You've got Basuma, Paulina, Gray, Bergvall. Is that it? Basuma,
Gallagher,
Bergvall, Gray,
Gallagher,
and Gallagher. So who's your 2 sitting then? If you're playing 5, who's the 2 sitting midfielders?
If Polinia's back, then it's Polinia and Gallagher. If Polinia's not, then I kind of want to see Archie Gray and Connor Gallagher. But if Polinia's there, he's got to play.
No Gallagher, Basuma to break the press.
Yeah, but by the way, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like
I don't want Basuma at the club. I mean, I'm a record of saying that. But
by the way, and if Polinia's not, then yeah, I would probably roll with Biss and Gallagher as well too. Yeah, I'll say this for Basuma: his last 2 appearances have actually been very good, very good. Against Burnley, Basuma was great. Actually,
I know he will come good, Gallagher, but he hasn't really impressed, has he, so far? Let's be fair.
Well, he's being played as a 6. He's being played as a holding midfielder. Like he's not necessarily crossing the halfway line a lot. He's really not. It's kind of weird. I thought he was going to be coming in as a box to box and being kind of a late box crasher. A nice little focal point in the mid, but it seems like, and especially in some of these matches, it almost seems like he's the one that's kind of being in that holding midfield, and then you see a guy like Basuma getting forward, or you see Gray getting forward, literally he's being used as a like for like with Rodrigo Betancourt. He's being used in that role, which seems kind of odd. But that being said, it's like, me personally, with a guy like João Polini on the field, you don't need to play a guy like Conor Gallagher in that role. Because if you want to drop somebody deep a little bit, João Polini can do that and still being able to get in position if there is a turnover in the midfield. You don't have to bring. You don't have to.
I
play
think
forward.
it's because it's City, and we've got a good record against them. We've had a good record against lots of teams this season, failed miserably. I think he will go for Basuma and Gallagher, or Basuma and Bologna. I mean,
Also,
who's
got a good record against. You know who's got a good record against City is Pap Sarr. Pap Sarr actually played incredibly well that last time around.
Goal records,
Yeah, as well too. So there's also some consideration.
So he's got a bit more options. Tell comes back into the fray as well. So two midfield. Then obviously Xavi plays.
Xavi plays.
That's your 5-2. So that so you got 5 at the back. Vicaro's 6, 2 in the midfield. That's 8. Xavi's 9. That leaves you 2 up front, which Solanke played during the week. I think Odebert's a cert to start. He might go with Tell if you rest Odebert though.
What would be what would be interesting is if they ran Odebert centrally as a 10. And if you're playing 2 strikers, one off, one target, and your target would be Solanke, but your off would be Xavi. And he's going to be playing in a hybrid 10 false 9 type of role. That actually is a little bit.
The 3 in front, the pivot: Xavi, Odebert, Solanke.
Say that one more time.
Xavi, Odebert, and Solanke. That's what it was against Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah. Xavi, Odebert, Solanke. Exactly.
So that's with a 2-man pivot. So, okay, we know if it's a back 4, if he's fit, it's VDV Romero. Again, we haven't got no choice other than Spencer and Doggy, right? If VDV ain't fit, it'll be Danso, who's done well recently. This is why he might play him, not just for his long throws as well. Which, as it seems to be. See, when we talk about, I'm not a fan of back 5. It depends. If it's 3-5-2, I like that. Right, that's what I like, and I like the fact that where we struggled in midfield, playing this system, we've been able to push an extra man in midfield. Whether it's a fullback or not, we've had that extra man in midfield, and it's either there as an out ball or to get stuck in. So I like that if we're tacking down one side as well. So,
I think if we're playing with the traditional back 4 with a double pivot, 100% you'd see Basuma in the lineup tomorrow. I think 100% you would see him in there because you're gonna want his pace being on top of that back.
He's the best player we've got for beating the press. It's just that Laughing Gas is inconsistent. He's inconsistent, and
so far this year he's been actually quite consistent in his 2 performances. He's actually been pretty good. Now, granted, I think it was against West Ham and Burnley.
That's if he's still at the club and isn't sold in the next few days to a Turkish side or whatever. Rumors. So okay. So that's that. So back 4, 3 in the midfield again. You still got a midfield pivot and Xavi. You just got an extra option in a forward line, haven't you? So again, you could still say Basuma, Polina. I think he's going to go for the experienced players in there, though, because it's City. Basuma, Polina, or Gallagher. It'll be 2 from those 3.
It would probably be Polina and Gallagher then at that stage.
I think Gallagher starts. He hasn't had a game. He's fresh. So I think Gallagher starts definitely in midfield and whatever system Frank plays. It's a question if he goes with Polina or Basuma alongside him. I'd probably go Polina and a Basuma on the bench. If Basuma's going, all right, I know it's City, you want to win a game, but stick with the players you're going to use all season. If you're going to sell him in this window, which you can get money for him, sell him, get rid.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go both games. I'm going Paulina and Gallagher.
And I think
he's going anyway. There's no part of the future. Get him gone. All right, he can be on the bench if he's not sold, but get him gone.
And if we're rolling with an attacking 3, then I think it would have to be Odebear on the right, Solanke up top. And then is this an opportunity where you
I think you play Tell
play Tell? Yeah.
because you got
Tell
Barnes
needs to be-
behind him, haven't you? That would
Yeah.
be more attack minding, but you know what Frank's going to do. He might get a bit drop into his conservative self and think, I'll
That's
give. I think Tell before he couldn't get picked for Europe, when we played 2 games recently, even he started to look good in games as well.
Yeah. And that's my biggest issue.
We take from our poor league form is that we've become a training ground for developing players. Right?
And that's my biggest worry is that we're going to show a little bit too much respect for City in this one. And we're going to be a little bit more conservative than attacking minded.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So how many chats here? If we're talking, give us some in the chat as well. This will be a laugh. Give us your predicted scores. And before you start, I'm going 2-1 Spurs.
Okay. Well, if this was at the Etihad, I would feel a little bit different.
Yeah.
We seem to Dr. Tottenham seems to be busy during the times where we're playing at the Etihad. But that being said, I will say that number one, our home form just has not really been good. Granted, we did get a nice little win over Borussia Dortmund, so that was kind of nice. But for the most part, I'm curious. Like I'm in that boat where I need to see it to actually believe it. You know, one of the things that we have seen is good European play and then stale Premier League teams, stale Premier League performances. And I just look at this as a situation where I don't know. So because of that, I'm going to go 2-1 City.
Okay. I don't know if we got any scores in the chat. I was actually thinking, I can't remember the last time these 2 teams have drawn at home, at our ground anyway, or if they have. Remind me in the chat if that's it, because
I will.
That is a possibility as well. Worst ways, I think a draw. I think we can beat them though, just because we just seem to play well against them. I mean, I remember the other day. What was it? When I asked Pep what he wanted for Christmas, he said a win against Tottenham. He said that so. Let's have a look at any comments. See if there's anyone. Evening chaps, Carl. Evening, Carl. Watch us get Sterling when he's been. Yeah, I don't want him. Seriously, he's not for the future. I'd rather bloat the squad. I'd rather get a clue. And we're not talking a fortune here, unless Monaco gets. I think what Spurs are going to do. Let's go back. Tap on it. Why are you getting your scores? And if you can bother, put a score in, guys, in the chat. Like I said, I've gone 2-1 Spurs. Steve's gone the opposite, 2-1 City.
So by the way, so here it is right here. I'll let you know. So in the 6-year history of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, these 2 teams have never played to a draw.
Right. Okay.
The last time that these 2 teams drawed when Spurs were the home team was August 14th, 2010, and that would have been their league opener.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah. So that's that. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Yeah. So I don't think any of you put a score in. Maybe that's a good thing. Then we've got after Man City. Everyone was worried about the results. And just on this, I mean, the reason I know there's fans out there. I get why you think we're in a relegation, but I don't. We've only won 2 in the last 15 or something like that, but we've won 7, we've drawn 7. If you work that percentage over those amount of games and you add it to the 15 games we got playing, we should win at least 5 games, right? Now that would be 15 points. We don't need that, right? In the last 6 or 7 seasons, I think the most points a team has got to start is 35. We're 7 away from that. Who doesn't think we're going to win 3 games, right? Which is 9 points and get 37, or even 4 and get 40. I mean, and some of those teams relegated have only got 26 and 27 points. Has been the highest amount of points. And to reassure some of you, West Ham's next 5 games, I went and looked. They've got Chelsea away.
Mhm.
Then they've got Burnley away, who are not easy. They've got Man United. They've got to play Man United. I think that's at home. Bournemouth, it might be away. Then they've got Bournemouth at home, who spanked Liverpool, and then they've got Liverpool away. I mean, they might not get a point from those games.
Well,
Yeah,
let's see. West Ham, yeah. So they have. That's right. They have Chelsea tomorrow, but then they have Burnley, and they have Bournemouth
Both at
in
home.
the next. Yeah, both at home. The next 4. Excuse me. In the next 5. That's played in between Chelsea, Man United, and Liverpool.
Mm.
But then after Liverpool, they have Fulham, right? So what I will say is that you're absolutely right. My concern isn't necessarily
I haven't
West
looked
Ham.
at Forest. Get Forest up while you're there. Who's
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, see, I was going to say I'm not necessarily concerned necessarily about West Ham. It's going to be Leeds and Forest as well too. And Forest, by the way, I can tell you right now. Forest, by the way, has they have Crystal Palace on the 1st. Then they have Leeds on the 6th, and then Wolves.
That's a double header, the Leeds one. Yeah, go on. Then they have
Yeah,
Wolves.
so the next 3 is Palace, Forest, and Wolves. Then they get Liverpool on the 21st. And then they get Brighton on the 28th. And of course, in between that, they got a 2-leg against Fenerbahce in the Europa League playoff. But after Brighton, then they get Man City, and then they have Fulham. So Forest actually has a actually pretty light schedule. And
but we know our teams. We know it seems a funny thing. Teams that play a game in Europe seem to struggle the game after. Seems to be a pattern. So we don't know. Well, look, we don't know. They've got a big squad. I mean, we don't know how they're going to shuffle the pack for these games. So
and Leeds, by the way, this is the tough one. Leeds has Arsenal. Then they get Forest, but then they get Chelsea, Villa, and then City.
Wow.
Before it eases up in March. So they also kind of have a gauntlet themselves, pretty much like we have.
Yeah, well, we're friends with Jess and Jay Weiss at Spurs, so on there. So I believe Leeds survive. I think they will. I mean,
I think they will.
The gap might close between West Ham, Forest, and Leeds. But looking at these, I could see us getting something from Man United away and Newcastle at home. Arsenal, I can. I mean, like, Man United haven't beaten us for 4 years. The last 9 games haven't beaten us. 9 games, all competitions, right? We seem to have something about Manchester at the moment. It's just clubs go through these phases and little eras, and it breaks, doesn't it? But I think
wouldn't you agree that Manchester United look completely different under Carrick than they did against under Amorim? They look like a completely different team.
Right. Okay, right. They've had great 6 points they got. Man City and Arsenal away, right? Fantastic. But they're inconsistent. So we'll see if Carrick keeps it up. He'll be judged at the end of the season, not now. 2 wins, fans are going, sign him up. Well, see how he does throughout the rest of the season. Then sign him up and you've got a ready-made manager. But if he doesn't, it's different. I've got nothing against Carrick. It was great for us. It was at Spurs. So I still think there's something gettable from these 2 games. And also, not only challenging for the league, I don't know, Man United still in the Cups or Newcastle? I can't remember. Who's in the league? Or Europe. These got playoffs. Any of these teams got playoffs?
Let's find out. What I will say is that Newcastle game is the one that I got circled for a multitude of reasons, because I actually think in Europe,
they are. Man United are not in Europe. They didn't qualify because we won the Europa League. They haven't got no European games. But Newcastle,
So Newcastle, they're going to be in the they're in the League Cup semifinal against City, and that's coming after Liverpool, which is tomorrow. Then they have the second leg, which is against City. Then they have Brentford before they get to us. So they're going to have essentially 3 days.
Haven't they played the first? Arsenal beat Chelsea in the first leg. Newcastle played there. Didn't City beat them?
I believe so.
If
Yeah.
you scroll back, so they've got the second leg
Yeah.
to play, right? And they've got Europe. See, so you know, it's how you get through these congested fixture lists, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, Newcastle's the 10th of February. Who they got before the 10th of February?
They beat Newcastle 2-0 in that first leg.
Right, okay, but who they got before? We play Newcastle on the 10th of February. Who have Newcastle got before the 10th of February?
They do. So after they play Liverpool this weekend, they, like I said, they got the second leg against City. Then they have Brentford, which is 3 days before we see them.
Right. Brentford doing okay, aren't they?
Frank
Yeah, so that ain't it. And they don't travel well, Newcastle. They do not travel well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, which Newcastle team is going to show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to, like that? It's weird playing Newcastle at St. James versus Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's a little bit different. Like last year, we were very competitive against Newcastle at home, and I think it was a BS call that allowed them to get forward and score that pivotal goal. But what I will say is, of the four teams that we're going to be playing in the next four, Newcastle at home is probably going to be the one where we're probably going to have the best opportunity to pick up 3 points, because Newcastle, you're absolutely right. They just, for whatever reason, they don't necessarily travel all that well. And considering that they're playing 3 days before, you wonder what kind of rotation are they going to have for us as well.
Worst plays out of this is me. For those who don't know, and I get accused of being delusional, I'm always glass 2/3 full. When I'm very confident, I'm 3/4 full. And when I'm supremely confident, my glass is overflowing, right? So that's the way I am. So those who don't know me, that's what I'm like. I think worst ways we get 5 points from these 4 games. I think we can get a draw against City, although I've gone for the win. I think we can get a draw away at Man United, and I think we can beat Newcastle. I think
that would be ideal.
Best return,
that would be ideal.
I think we could get 7. And I hate to say it, but I think we'd lose against them lot of the road. And I think we'd get 2 wins. And I think we could beat Man United and beat Newcastle, but that's 9. But I think we could draw one of those games. We could draw one.
I don't know, man. That's the thing. It's like, again, I need to see some semblance of form in the Premier League where we show it, but we show up and we actually play a full 90. And it's either we show too much respect and we chalk off the first 45 and we're spending the entire second half chasing a draw, or we actually start off on the front foot and we're actually applying pressure. And we go up either by a goal or we go up 2, and then we take our foot off the gas in the second half. And we allow teams to actually get in. Like, there has to be a moment where we're either going to be on the front foot for 80 minutes and put a team to the sword, or we're not. But either way, like, we still have yet to see a full 90 from this squad, essentially since the first time we saw Man City in the second game of the season.
If this, I mean, it's been an underperforming squad. It's not as bad as it is. There's a lot of untapped in the squad, right?
I agree.
But also, we now moved into the next phase of the Champions League. A good win away, the club will be buzzing. There'll be players that want to get into that Champions League squad. We've probably got too many foreign players. I haven't gone through the list yet, and the window's not shut, so we don't know if anyone comes in who's a foreign player. If Akliouche comes in, he ain't coming unless he's going in the squad, right? 100%. So that'll be any foreign player that comes into this football club will want to be in an ECL squad. And so, yeah. So these players now, I said it last year when we struggled underage. I said, look, while we're in a cup competition, and both competitions got one out, I said, while we're in a cup, and it ended up the Europa League, I said, these players want to win trophies. They're going to back the manager. And said the right things about the players and all that. He always praised them up, said they're fighting for me, blah, 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 and all this. And I said the same thing with Frank. I haven't seen the players take the foot off the gas. I've seen some shit results, Forest away, you know what I mean, and whatever, and things like that. But we've seen some shit results where they ain't turned up. But I don't think that was because the players took their foot off the gas. They just thought they were shit on the day, right? And now there'll be a buzz in them players. So
You
and
hope.
that confidence. Sorry.
I said you hope they got a buzz about themselves.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that being said, let me ask you this question because I get this impression, and maybe I'm just too much of a curmudgeon, but I get the impression that it almost feels a little bit like it was last year, where by this time last year they knew exactly where their priorities were when it came to the rest of the season, and of course they threw all their eggs in that Europa League basket. And of course, Ange Postecoglou rotated accordingly just to make sure that those players were available for those matches. But it almost feels like it's the same situation where most of these players understand that they're still in the Champions League and there's still something left to play for. And in the Premier League, it almost feels like I hate to use the term given up, but because I don't necessarily think they have. But it seems like their motivation is more geared towards the Champions League than it is the Premier League. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, you'd say that on the form, 6 clean sheets in the, you'd think like, oh yeah, they've gone for it. We've all been traditionally known as a cup side.
Right.
It's weird. I mean, I just think it's purely coincidental. I also think like midweek games under the lights have always been special at Tottenham. They've always been a bit special. And in the 4 home games, we didn't concede a goal. That's unheard of considering our league form at home, So, and then like others will say, oh, the teams were crap and all that. Hold on. We know if we're playing weak teams in the Premier League or anywhere, like teams are well organised. We wouldn't have heard of Bodo Glimt a few seasons ago, Ludogorets and other teams that are in Europe. They're not there because they're total crap. They might play in leagues that aren't at the level of the Premier League. There aren't any leagues that are level with the Premier League, right? For physicality and that and energy. But these teams are well organised, right? And this is why even teams in the FA Cup from the lower divisions, they do well. They're just well organised and compact. If it was that easy to score goals, these teams would be blown away by these millionaire superstars, right? But they're not, So it's not a surprise, but we've seen some. I mean, this is why you see what you think are shocks all the time, but it's not just shocks in the Premier League. There's shocks in Europe, as well.
It's interesting because we're only five points removed from the top 10.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't seem.
It's the 7th, doesn't it? Europa League. That's what I want. I want Europa League season still.
Well, here's the thing, right? We're 5 points removed from Everton, who are sitting in 10 points, but yet it feels like we're miles away from the top 10 just because of our form in the Premier League. And that's the thing. It's like, if there was a sign that this team was right on the cusp of potentially chalking up the table, I would probably be going into most matches actually quite where you're at, where it's like, my cup is overfilling, right? But that being said, it's like, Sunderland, performances against Sunderland, West Ham, Burnley, we saw it against Bournemouth, in some ways, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Bournemouth the first time around. It's like teams that you would think that just on paper from a talent standpoint, we probably should never lose those games, and yet we're finding ways to lose. For whatever reason, that doesn't apply to the Champions League.
Yeah, and yet what is frustrating is the fact that when we're on point defending, we look like we got the best back 4, possibly 5 in the league. When we go away at Brighton and pull a game back, when we go to Newcastle and get to we show such good resilience in games. But then when the games, what's been so infuriating for me is if the goals we give away were worldies or they come a deflection off the player, I get that. That's just the way it happens, closing down a worldie goal. But we go from superb defending to give away such sloppy goals. That's the thing. They're so sloppy and basic. And you just think, well, how comes like you weren't marking tight? Why are you zonal in the box? Why haven't you picked the runner up? What's happened here? And let people carve us open easily, I mean, so I think our form will improve. I think this will give everyone a big boost at the club. I think players, well, they obviously want to be in the Champions League. It is the, top cup competition in the world. So apart from the Euros and the World Cup, so I think we want to be there. Unless you've got anything else, Steve, I'll put your link up here. So there's 70 of you watching us on various platforms. Please get over to Stateside Footy. And if you're on various platforms, please get over to the Spurs Diehards TTID Facebook, YouTube page and subscribe. Subscribe to the videos and give the videos a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, not the videos. And yeah, because that helps the algorithm and all that. We do have a Facebook group if you're interested. You can find Spurs Diehards TT on XCOM as well. You can message us if you want to come on the show. Message us, and then we can exchange messages and phone numbers. And I can add you to our WhatsApp group, which has got 70 odd in it, which we get our guests from. That's the sync we draw our guests from. Steve and Alan and loads of other people, that podcasters in there as well. So if you not only can you come on our shows, you probably get invited on theirs, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that, I want to thank everyone, the loyal supporters in the chat for their comments and questions. I want to thank all you on various platforms that are watching us. Yeah. Big up to everyone who watches us on playback as well, And with that, Steve, any final words before I play us out?
Yeah, and I just hope, I hope that come match day, that these these players realize the opportunity that's in front of them, right? So every single week, it's a new opportunity to right the wrongs of the form that we have shown, and in a match like Man City, considering where they're at, considering where we are, we have an opportunity to make their climb to the Premier League title even that much more difficult. And so I really hope that that form that we saw against Eintracht Frankfurt is going to be on display, and I really hope that we can carry, if we do get started off in the front foot, I hope we carry it to minute 70, minute 80, before we eventually bring in substitutions to be a little bit more defensive. And I hope when we do it, we got a 2-goal lead. That would be ideal. And I'm just really hoping that Thomas Frank has learned that, and and he's not going to be conservative, based on injuries and based on things that haven't happened yet. That's what my hope is. And that we come away with a victory. But until that happens, I'm gonna continue to remain where I'm at. But that doesn't mean that but that being said, I hope I'm proven wrong. I'm very, very, very much hope I'm proven wrong. Yeah,
I'm hoping this is the start of our fall now, but this is giving the club a boost. Players are feeling confident. Well, they should do. You should always be feeling confident as a player anyway, right? That's what we pay you for, right? And I'm hoping that we continue to be a bane for Man City coming. I'm not worried about what them lot down the road are doing. I just want 3 points, and I hope they lose. So, and with that, I'm going to play you out. I forget which piece of music I wrote and put up here. I'm going to play you out with this. And Ian Meth will be hosting Sunday at 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock it'll be this Sunday, because it'll be after the game, because kickoff's 4:30. So I'm going to the game. So hopefully I'll be back in time. I should be back in time for that. Easy. Okay, with that, thank you all. Have a great weekend. And like I said, please subscribe to Spurs Diehards on YouTube. Give the channel a thumbs up and get up to Steve and do the same here. Yeah, it is link here. And thanks again. All have a great weekend. And hopefully we celebrate the weekend with a win on Sunday. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
We are top until we die. We are top until we die. Spurs die, hearts, heart and soul. We are top until we die. We are top until we die. Spurs die, hearts, heart and soul. We are top until we die. We are top until we die. Spurs die, hearts, heart and soul. Lily white, lily white, lily white, and navy blue. Tottenham till we die. We are Tottenham till we die. Spurs die, heart, heart and soul. Lily white, lily white, and navy blue. till we die. We are Tottenham till we die. Spurs die, heart, heart and soul. Lily white, lily white, lily white. And navy blue, we are Tottenham till we die.